Welcome to another episode of Voices of Manufacturing. I'm your host, name tag Scott, and our guest today brings a wealth of experience in the manufacturing industry. So listen to this. He's got a career that started as an intern developing mobile flow testing to a machine operator to his current executive position. And what I find interesting about him is that he excels both on the business development side and also on the engineering side. So it's a twofer today. So you're going to love his insights and stories. Please welcome to the show VP of Sales and Engineering at Precision Plus, Mike Reeder.
Awesome, Scott. Thank you for the kind introduction and excited to be here today and share my experience.
Are you in Milwaukee today?
About 45 minutes southwest of Milwaukee in Elkhorn is where we are
Elkhorn.
located.
And did you grow up around that area?
Just south of the border in Illinois is where I grew up.
Oh, geez. Are you a Cubs fan or a Brewers fan?
I'm going to lean more towards the Wisconsin side of things, to be honest.
The Brewers won in '82. The Cubs, it took them 100 something years. So that's probably a better choice.
Yeah, the Chicago fans, they hold out. So,
They do. One of my best friends was in Wisconsin, but was a Cubs fan and went to the World Series and saw him win. And he was like, this is the greatest day of his life.
yeah, yeah, they take what they can get.
Yeah, I guess so. That part of the country, certainly Milwaukee proper, but I'm sure in Elkhorn where you're from too, they have a history of manufacturing, not just beer, but I'm sure a lot of things. Do you remember growing up if manufacturing was a sort of a staple around your environment?
Where I grew up, manufacturing was not really educated for my
Sure.
high school. It was go get a 4-year degree,
Right.
and that's it. They really didn't talk about the trades. They didn't talk about manufacturing.
Yeah.
And what I've grown to love about Southeast Wisconsin here and the local high school systems is they do a fantastic job promoting youth apprenticeships revolved around
Nice.
manufacturing. So it's been a wonderful change in environment.
Yeah. I wonder what causes that change. Is that a government thing? Is that a community thing? How is it that manufacturing becomes an interesting career for students?
I think a lot of it is just awareness and perception. We really try to work hard to promote what manufacturing is today. And it's
Yeah.
not these dark, dirty, dangerous
Right.
places. It's very high tech, very high end, and it takes sophisticated equipment to do what we're doing. And it takes trained people to
Yeah.
drive those pieces of equipment.
When I think about my high school, I know plenty of people that were into that kind of stuff that today, if we were in high school now, I could absolutely see them pursuing it. And it's a completely compelling career.
hmm
Do you remember your first job that you ever had growing up in Elkhorn?
Yeah, family business here, Precision
Right.
Plus. I got a little bit of an experience doing everything. When I was young, that started out tooling around the shop with my grandfather, working on odds and ends related to the building and facility infrastructure. And as I got older, that transitioned to getting involved in some of the, we'll call it light duty manufacturing processes. And those were our, what we call our secondary processes. So things that
Right.
couldn't get done on the primary work center, doing that in our secondary op. And what I quickly learned is I wanted to figure out ways to not have to sit there and do stuff in a secondary op. Let's figure out how to get it done on the machine.
What was it like being the boss's son, or in this case, the boss's grandson?
Again, trying to conquer perceptions, right? I'm there to do whatever it takes to work hard, just as hard or harder than everybody else. And no role is beneath me. We're all here to do what it takes to succeed. And that's what I've grown up with and how I've lived my life and how I've tried to build a team around us.
I've seen quite a bit of this in manufacturing, the family business. Is that something you've seen across the industry?
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of family businesses, especially we're a part of the Precision Machine Products Association, PMPA. A lot of family businesses in there. Some of them, I think, going back even as 4 or 5 generations.
Cool. It's interesting how certain industries do that. Completely unrelated to manufacturing, the funeral home industry is something that is very generational. I happen to have friends who work in that industry, but I guess I always wonder why that's the case. What do you think it is
Mhm.
about manufacturing that lends itself to that multi-generational tradition?
I think it's a long-lasting career, right? Manufacturing is always evolving to support the
Right.
needs of society, and the technology we utilize continues to evolve with those needs, and it can provide a very rewarding career for more than my lifetime. We talk about 4 or 5 generation organizations still going strong. It's a very rewarding career path.
And after working there, I guess as a youth, as you went through college and got older, did you continue to work within precision or did you go out and sow your professional oats elsewhere?
My father had always encouraged me to try and gain some outside the building experience, which
Yep.
was completely understandable. So while I was in college, I had interned at a place just south of Milwaukee. I went to Milwaukee School of Engineering. So this place made custom induction heat treating systems. So that's where that flow test bench that you referred to, I was
Right.
working to help implement. I also worked at a big metal forging facility in my hometown of Spring Grove in their machine repair department for a summer, working on all of their equipment and diving in headfirst into some not so pretty things. But it was awesome. It was with a great group of guys.
Yeah. Give me an example or a couple snapshots of some not so pretty things, if you can.
They had just, this is a big metal forging shop. Their lightest part is maybe a couple thousand pounds, all the way up
Oh,
to 250,000 pounds. They do big stuff. They just gotten this new mill in, and each bed on the mill could support a 100,000 pound ingot.
wow.
So they basically build these things into the foundation, and underneath in that foundation is the coolant pit. The new guy on the block got to go down into the coolant pit and go install some of the drainage piping into the concrete.
Oh,
So I was down in this, obviously not air conditioned. It's summer in southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, so it's very hot. It's moist. You're in all your gear, and you're got a hammer drill going into the concrete for about, I don't know, 40, 50 concrete screws.
what temperatures are we talking about here?
Depending on where you're at in the forge, it can exceed 100 degrees. Otherwise, the rest of the shop, you're talking 80, 90 degrees on a warm summer day.
Are you still okay with the heat, or have you gone the other direction and you can't stand the heat anymore?
I lost 10 pounds that summer, so that was a little rewarding, but very spoiled here in our environment, all climate controlled. Yeah, heat, I could do without it.
But you've done it. That's got to be key for inspiring the next generation. You can say, "Look, I worked in that pit. I remember what it's like." So you can, they can't, they're not allowed to complain if you're there.
Yep, yep. Hey, can't say, got to try it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Internship is a word that for different types of industries can be negative. Certainly in the tech industry, where Dazuki works in tech, internships have often led to problematic types of jobs. But it sounds like in manufacturing, internships can be incredibly rewarding and helpful. Was that the case for you?
Absolutely. What I love about internships is, personally for me, it gave me the opportunity to explore different industries, different careers, and start to understand not only how they work together, but what it takes to be successful in each of those careers. And the group the metal forging place I had worked at was also a scholarship sponsor for me at MSOE. And it was great that they were able to then hire me on for a summer and learn more about their business.
Did you have a like a cohort or group of people that were there together? You had mentioned like a group of guys that you worked with.
Yeah, so on their machine repair team, I probably worked with, 8 different guys or so. And again, there was stigmatisms to overcome there. They knew about Precision Plus. They knew who I was, and it was all
Ah,
right. Look who we've got, right? We're gonna put this guy to the test. And I put my head down, went to work, and they really respected who I was and my work ethic. So
have you stayed in touch with any of them?
a few of them, yeah, yeah, a
Nice.
few of them, yeah. It was a great experience, great group of people, and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Does Precision do any type of internship program?
Absolutely. Our internship, and I'll call it youth apprentice program, goes back to about 2013 when we first brought on an individual from education. We really started working hard with our local high schools in the area. And of those, Elkhorn Area High School has really stepped up and done a fantastic job. And there's been a few key people on the staff that have really helped make that happen.
Cool.
One of which is actually getting recognized at a honors event tonight that we started in her name. But she was really the driving force to helping foster these youth apprentice programs going through our building. And I'd say on any given year, we probably have about 7, 8 YAs through our building, along with every summer engineering interns working in our manufacturing area and in our engineering department with our engineering team.
Do you get them at a certain age, or is there a range of the apprenticeships?
Try to lock into showing these kids these career paths going all the way into middle school. Now,
Oh,
obviously, you can't have middle school kids working in your facility, but what we found is by the time these kids get to high school, a lot of times their minds are already made up.
ah,
So we really work hard to show our presence as early as we can. And then by the time they get to high school and they come of at least 16, 17 years old, we can start getting them involved in some of the different areas of the facility. And then once they're 18, they're pretty much capable of doing whatever.
Take me through someone who, say, hasn't made up his mind yet, say a, I don't know, 14, 15-year-old, eighth grader, ninth grader. What what do you see? What do you hear from them? What do they say when they walk through a facility like yours?
I think a lot of them are just wowed by, again, the cleanliness of the facility, the
Yeah.
flooring in the facility, the great lighting, and all the different pieces of technology doing different things. We've got some semi-automated robotic systems doing some secondary ops or automated inspection. You've got all the different pieces of CNC machines humming away, making all these different parts. And I think what really wows them then is you start to explain to them that, hey, this part goes into programs that support liquid cooling in data centers, or this goes on to tractors, or this goes on to airplanes. Like, they start recognizing that in this little tiny small shop in Elkhorn, you're making an influence on all these different sectors of the world, and they have an ability then to make an impact on that.
Have you seen some of them come through, do the apprentice program, and then come to work for you or grow in their career?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've secured a number of people, not only on the production side, but on the engineering side, in our accounting area, in our customer service area. It's been a really great opportunity to see some of these kids flourish in their own spots.
And are some of the older generations of your family still around to interact with the youths?
Absolutely. There are three generations of readers here.
Oh man.
Yep. So my father, owner of the company, and then my 86-year-old grandfather. So still here from about 3 a.m. to noon every single day.
Wow.
And yeah, a great asset to the organization.
Grandfather probably not in the pit cleaning that out, I have to assume.
No metal forging shops for him.
Is he still active in everyday activities, or is he more of sort of a presence and a figurehead?
Big picture, and then he does a great job assisting with a lot of facilities needs.
Okay.
He grew up doing farming and
Wow.
on a resort property that his parents and another family co-owned. So he got into dealing with all kinds of different things over his youth, and it just made him a real good utility knife as he got older. Anything that goes on with the building, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical, he sniffs it out. He knows what's going on, and he's working with whomever to help get it sorted out.
I love it. That's got to be inspiring for everyone in the company to see someone like that.
Yep, yeah. We could only all wish we're doing as good as he is at 86.
Man. So we talked about the young kids coming in. Talk about some of the veterans, whether it's your grandfather or people that have been in the business for 20 or 30 years. Like, how do you see them adapting to the modern manufacturing workplace?
I'll go back to when we first moved facilities from our original location in Walworth, Wisconsin. The business was started in 1982. My grandfather purchased it in 87, and we moved to our current facility today in Elkhorn in 2000. And when we moved in here, we didn't have a single CNC machine. It was
Hmm.
all single spindle mechanical Tornos machines. It was in 2003 that we actually got our first CNC machine, and that was a Swiss CNC machine. And fast forward to today, there's 50 pieces of CNC Swiss in our building, along with still some of the mechanical equipment to this day. So when we talk about the evolution of technology, we have been reinvesting in the building, the people, the technology uh, very heavily since we've moved here. And it's been interesting to see a lot of these people that were doing more monotonous work. They've grown with the technology, and now that we've got all this higher end tech going on in the building, it's been fun to see them grow with it, doing more
Yeah.
high level things, more productive, and at the end of the day, more valuable.
Yeah. Do you think of yourself as an early adopter? Are you late when it comes to getting the new tech into place? Where do you sit on that continuum?
Well, we like to push the edge of what we can do with our
Yeah.
technology. It's someone who buys the fancy sports car, right? And someone goes, "You don't need all that power." And it goes, "Only if you don't use it." We always like to say we use it, and anytime there's something new out there that it gives us a competitive edge or allows us to do something more wild and crazy, we're all for it, and we try to stay with the times.
Awesome. We have reached the halftime here at Voices in Manufacturing. So this is my favorite segment. We're going to go back in time and we're going to find out what happened on this day in manufacturing history. Mike, are you ready to play?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's crank up the gears. We're going to forge some manufacturing knowledge. Here's how we play the game. First, I'm going to share three pivotal moments that left a mark in manufacturing history. You have 30 seconds to answer the multiple choice questions. And if you get all three of these right, you are going to win 1 million Dozuki dollars. How's that sound?
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't actually exist. It's just fun to say. All right, I'm gonna throw these in the chat for you. Okay, number one. On this day in 1845, adhesive tape made its first appearance by Dr. Horace Day, and this was a surgeon who used rubber adhesive applied to strips of fabrics to invent surgical tape. So the question was, which of these ingredients was not an original ingredient in the manufacturing of this sticky product? Was it A, pine gum, B, cayenne pepper, or C, Elmer's glue?
I'm going to go with C.
You got it. Elmer's glue, not part of that. The fact that there was cayenne pepper kind of blows me away, but it was 1845.
Yep. Yep. Made do with what he had.
That's right. That's what they had. Okay, here we go. This is another one. This is not too far away from you. This is some trivia that took place in Minnesota. Whoops, sorry. Question number two. On this day in manufacturing history in 1941, American singer and songwriter Bob Dylan was born in Duluth, Minnesota, just down the road from you. Now, Bob wrote songs about factory workers and there's a culture around manufacturing. So, can you tell me which of these songs is not a Bob Dylan song? Is it A, Union Sundown, B, Maggie's Farm, or C, Ghosts of the Rust Belt?
I'm going to show that I'm not a Bob Dylan fan, and I'm going to guess A.
The correct answer was Ghosts of the Rust Belt. Answer C. That's like I thank Chat GPT for that one. I said, give me the name of a pretend Dylan song that sounds like it's a Dylan song about manufacturing, but it's not the Ghosts of the Rust Belt. But maybe he's listening and he'll go ahead and write that song. It's not over yet. Okay, you're doing good. You are 1 for 2 so far. Plenty of time left. Last question, number 3. Here we go. On this day in manufacturing history in 1989, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, my favorite Indiana Jones movie, premiered. Now, Indy uses a trademark whip in all of his films. So the question is, what U.S. city is known for its whip manufacturing excellence? Is it A, Westfield, Massachusetts, B, Rawhide, Nevada, or C, Whippoorville, Tennessee?
Oh, man. I feel like you got some more good trick answers in here, but I'm inclined to say A as a result of this.
Yeah, that was a little telegraph there. A is correct, Westfield, Massachusetts. Those Rawhide, Nevada, not real. Whippoorwill, Tennessee. That's a little too on the nose. So great job. You did 2 out of 3. And even though you didn't get all 3 right, we're still going to give you the Dozuki $1 million. Congratulations.
Oh, man. Thank you.
Once again, great job playing on this day in manufacturing history. So we're going to move into the second half of our interview, and we've talked a lot about people on the floor, operators, engineers, and what I'd be curious about is how, from a career path standpoint, does someone go from a frontline worker up to an executive where you are now?
I think it takes somebody with a lot of humility in everything that they do, right? Someone who's able to work in all the different aspects of the building, work with these people, learn what makes each department function, what jams things up, and as someone who can then problem solve and take things to the next level. And I only speak to that from my own personal experience. I
Yeah.
worked in all corners of the building, doing a little bit of everything. And I naturally gravitated to the technical aspect of the building. And my day-to-day role is basically helping to solve problems, working with team members in all aspects of the building. That's how I worked my way up
Yep.
to being where I'm at today. And I think that's the best way you could hope to learn about
Yeah.
an organization and lead it into the future.
Do you think you solve problems from an engineering standpoint or a sales standpoint?
Anytime we're faced with a problem, I'm a very technical mindset.
Okay.
Problems for me are challenges, and every problem has a technical explanation.
Right.
I look forward to always being able to try and come up with a justification of why something is happening.
Yeah.
What do we learn from it, and how do we bulletproof the process for not being faced with that again?
Do you have any favorite tools or ways you like to solve problems, questions you ask, something of that nature?
Whenever I go into problem solving, I always like to think about how we break things down into the smallest elements, right? Because sometimes people get easily overwhelmed by this big complex machine, lots of things going on in the process. And what I like to do is just be able just to step through things one thing at a time and identify, hey, where does the problem occur, step by step, and then go, okay, now that we know that it starts there, now we can identify exactly what's going on. And when we make changes one at a time and then validate what was the result, and then was it successful or was it not?
Yeah, that's a brilliant way to do it. Do you have an example of a certain problem anytime recently that you were able to solve? I'd love to hear how you walk through something from a very specific standpoint.
Hmm. Let me think here. Shoot. Let's think. We could go with an example like this. We've got a part on a machine that we run around the clock here, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, even into the weekend. And one of the things early on in the development of the process for this part, we would face, it's got a lot of live tool, it's got some live tooling in it, end mills. What would happen is the end mill would get to a point and it would actually, due to the cutting forces, it would actually pull the end mill out of the collet.
Uh,
And when it pulled it out, it would break it, machine stops, not fun. We experimented a lot with, okay, hey, where can we repeat to effectively on tool life before that happens? And what we found was we were still facing, we couldn't really find a finite number that we could run to every time. We'd run to 5,000 pieces, and then the next time it maybe only make it three or make it
yeah,
seven. So what we actually ended up trying to break down here was, we needed to maintain the cutting speeds and, depth of cuts that we were doing, but we needed to find better ways to hang on to the tool is what we were after. We explored different colleting methods, right? Can we get into a different style of collet that gives us a little more clamping force? We would make that change and then we would audit. Hey, let's try again, running to our
right.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 pieces. And we saw some more success in that. We were getting up higher, so we were getting better clamping forces. We were getting longer tool life before the mill was actually getting pulled out of the
Uh,
collet. But again, we still saw a little bit of variability once we got up high. The final step was actually, we ended up actually doing some sandblasting on the tool shank itself
huh.
and said, hey, instead of this smooth, slippery surface of a tool, let's rough this thing up a little bit.
Huh.
And so now we've got a process in place with the better colleting system, the sandblasted shanks on all the tools. And now every time we hit 10,000 pieces, and by then the tool is more than paid for itself, and
Right.
we're good to go.
That's fascinating. There's a couple things you said I want to double click on that I really liked. Tool life. Tell me more about what that is.
Anytime we put cutting tools in the machine, whether those are inserts, drills, reamers, mills, you name it, we know that tool is going to last a given amount of parts
Right.
before it either is no longer producing stable results or it is no longer producing results that
Mm.
meet our customer's print.
Yep.
So anytime we engineer a process and it's a new process, we need to validate, hey, what is the process capable of yielding for
Yep.
any given tool's functional life?
When you solve a problem like that and you figure out how to be more accurate with the tool life, are you capturing that? Are you documenting it? How does everyone get on the same page with that?
So all of our CNC machines have tool life counters. So
Mm.
we've got a little informational sheet that'll basically document, hey, if we set the tool life for 1001, we know that, hey, we are still testing. And when the counter hits 1001, we know to do an audit of the tool. How's it looking? How's our part doing? And if it looks okay, we'll bump it up another 500 pieces or 1,000
Ah,
pieces at a time until we've locked it in at a solid number ending in a zero. So that'll all get documented. So it all gets set up in the machine, gets documented on the operator setup guy's setup sheet,
yep.
and then stored with that specific job.
Yep. The last thing I appreciated is like you said, we'll rough it up a little bit. And it's like the idea of when I hear let's rough them up, it just sounds like a mobster movie, like a Scorsese thing. But in this case, roughing something up is a really good thing.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing what a little more texture can do for trying to hang on to something. We do the same thing with the reverse effect. We'll actually take this coating on our collets that hang on to the bar stock, and we'll actually do this process, send them out for this process called carbonite.
Hmm.
And that's actually putting a layer of, we'll call it this textured surface into the collet that then allows us to get better clamping forces on the bar
Right.
and keeps us from shoving the bar back into the bar loader when we are doing more aggressive turning or more aggressive
Yeah.
drilling.
Yeah. Friction can be a beautiful thing.
Yep. So,
One of the things I was reading about was during COVID, Precision Plus was active making ventilators. I think it was a 500,000, if I'm not mistaken. Love to hear about what that period was like and what your role was.
Sure. So, for a number of years, we've supported a number of clients that, as we came to find out, actually were supporting valve systems that went into ventilators. We were producing small machined metal and plastic components that ultimately made their way into valve systems that ended up in ventilators that, for example, like Ford was putting together during COVID. We began to see a ramp up a lot earlier than what you heard about things on the news. And we started to ask some questions about, hey, what's going on here? And our client said, yeah, this is actually for ventilator programs. And we were like, oh, no way. We had that legacy group that we were doing work with that we had been making components that we'd maybe do a few thousand a year that now we were talking about in a couple months, 50, 100,000,
Wow.
right? We also had another group come to us through a friendly machine shop that's local in the area too. And they said, hey, I can't take on all this work. Can you split this
Yeah.
work with me? And they hooked us up directly with their clients. And there was three plastic components in there that we actually helped support for the long run too. And there actually ended up being a component that my favorite story. We got a call from this client that we'd gotten connected with on a Sunday afternoon, and they said, Mike, we've got an emergency. Ford needs this part, and they need it tomorrow. What can
Oh,
you do? And this is a Sunday afternoon. We still need to be able to. We don't know what the part looks like. We don't have a print yet. We need to get a process put together. We need to get the machine set up. We need to run the parts. We need to get the parts through quality systems, cleaned up, out the door. Wow. So that afternoon, we actually got the drawing, and you could see on the date stamp that it was signed off at Ford that same afternoon on a Sunday. And that evening, got in touch with our engineer related to the machine that was going to get manufactured on. He had a plan put together that night, and in the morning, him and one of the guys out on the floor, they were both working independently on getting the process established, getting the machine set up while the other guy was making the process. And I think by late morning, we were running that process through on the machine. And then right around lunchtime, producing parts. And I think by 2 p.m., we had parts qualified out the door and heading to basically a plane to fly them direct to Ford.
wow.
So yeah, COVID was very interesting times, and there was even a third group that came to us, brand new client, and I think there was 8 new parts that they needed us to manufacture. 8 new parts in a matter of a week. We had machines humming round the clock,
Yeah.
making 8 new parts.
Was Precision Plus categorized as an essential business
Absolutely,
at,
absolutely.
prior to COVID, or did that make it qualify?
That really reinforced what we're doing here and the importance of what we're doing here. We even went as far as flagging each of the machines, making life-saving equipment, life-saving components that everybody knew, hey, this machine is making life-saving components. Should there ever be a problem or something going on with this machine, they knew right away that they needed to tend to that immediately.
So is there a sticker or a plaque or a sign that specifies life saving?
Yep, yeah, there was a big plaque on the side of every machine.
Wow. When that was going on, what was the culture like? What was the mindset of the people knowing that they have this opportunity to do such important work?
It instilled a lot of pride in them. They were looking
Mm,
around at a lot of other shops that either weren't involved in this type of work or just other manufacturing places in general, and people were slow. It was a tough year for a lot of places, and some folks didn't make it. Um, but we were strong. We were strong that year. We were very fortunate for the line of work that we were involved in, and to be able to stay busy, working, and serving an important purpose in society.
what a gift. That's awesome. I've fully been impressed with this whole journey from the internships to cleaning out the pit to having the different generations of the family in there. So it's truly inspiring. I have friends in Milwaukee, so when I get there, I'm going to have to come by and do an official tour.
Anytime, anytime.
We're going to wrap things up with a little bit of a lightning round. So, a couple questions to take us out. Number one, if you could take a tour of any current manufacturing facility in the world, what would it be?
If anyone's familiar with Titans of CNC, there's a wonderful shop out in machine shop out in Switzerland called Lobscher.
Hmm.
And if you check it out, Titans of CNC, you'll see Manfred himself taking Titan Gilroy through there. And it's an incredible place. And go back to Swiss machining, Moutier,
Yeah.
Switzerland, the essence of where all this started. I'm always excited to talk about that place anytime I can.
We talk about precision, right? That's their thing.
Yep.
Okay, so now if you could go back in time and see any product being made, what would it be?
Guy. If I had to go back in time, the era of Henry Ford, the assembly line, you look at combustion engines and what they are today versus what they started with, and you think the cart before the horse kind of thing. How did they make
Hmm.
this without that? And again, they found a way to get it done, like the guy with
They-
the cayenne pepper and
yeah,
making adhesive tape.
they
So
did
I
it.
find that really fascinating.
If you were working on the front line tomorrow, what music would you want playing through the factory?
Work on the front line. I'm an inspirational guy. I'm trying to think of something epic, but
The Ring soundtrack.
there you go. There you go. That's one of them.
You feel like you're going into battle.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, two more. If you were a plant manager with an unlimited budget, how would you redesign the break room?
I think the important part of break time is not only to try and disconnect a little bit from the workday, but also to collaborate with your team members. Yeah, my focus would be on an unlimited budget for a break room, making it something that allows people to disconnect for a little bit from their day to day work, but also something that fosters the ability to do team activities together,
Yeah,
whether that's games, puzzles, what have you, just the ability to interact on it without thinking about work.
sounds nice. All right, and the last question is, what is your advice to someone on day one who is going into work at a facility like yours?
Keep an open mind. Don't be afraid to do whatever it takes because at the end of the day, we're all here to accomplish the same goals. We're all just doing a little bit different duty to get there.
Mike Reeder, thank you so much for being our guest. It's been a privilege. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Voices of Manufacturing. And my name is Name Tag Scott. On behalf of everyone here in Dazuki, remember, if you don't write it down, it never happened. Goodbye, everybody.